It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso right here on SABC3. Now, if you consider yourself a picky eater or tend to reach for the salt shaker more than anyone else at the table, then there might be more to your urge than just a bad habit. Now, you may be what is called a super taster, and there's actually a fascinating science behind this phenomenon. Here to tell us more about it is Nicole Jennings from Pharma Dynamics. Nicole, so good to have you on the show this morning. Looking gorgeous in green, darling.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so let's talk about this concept of a super taster. I've never heard it before in my life, or is it just a picky eater? What's the difference?
So it's not just a picky eater. Being a super taster is actually genetic.
Yeah.
About 1 in 3 people are super tasters, and what this means is that you have the bitter taste receptor gene.
Yeah.
And you pick up on subtle bitter flavors in foods that other people just can't pick up on.
Oh, wow. I thought that was just being a fussy eater. What about parents who honestly believe that their kids are fussy eaters? What does kind of differentiates them between a fussy eater or someone that's a super taster?
Okay, it's quite difficult to determine without doing a proper test because it can go one of two ways. Some super tasters find taste overwhelming, and so they sort of tend to go for a more bland diet, whereas other people actually seek out that heightened sense of taste that they experience as super tasters. So the best way to determine whether your child is a super taster is to actually do the test. And to do this, you just get a PTC strip from your local pharmacy. So that's phenylthiocarbamide, which is a sulfate that can only be detected by a super taster.
Now, this is so interesting to me because two people can eat the exact same plate of food, and one says, it's so salty, and another one keeps putting more salt on, it's so bland. What is the kind of the link between someone that's a super taster and someone who uses increased levels of salt in their food?
Okay, this was so interesting when they started doing the research. They thought that a super taster would probably not oversalt because, you know, they can pick up on the flavors. But they then found that the salt actually cancels out the bitter undertone for super tasters. So they are the ones that tend to go for the discretionary salt and sort of oversalt their food, again, to heighten the flavors that they seek. In their
That's quite
food.
interesting. Talking about salt, how much salt does the average South African use in their diet, and what is a healthy level of salt usage?
We as South Africans are very guilty of overusing
Are we
salt.
naughty?
We're very naughty.
Are we naughty? All right, let's look at that.
So currently, you know, the average adult uses around 40 grams of salt a day. That's 8 times the World Health Organization's recommended 5 grams of salt a day. So a good way to measure 5 grams is about 1 teaspoon of salt. And also, you know, keep in mind that you don't physically have to eat that in its salt form. There's salt in cheese, there's salt in chicken, for instance, that's injected with brine water. You know, there's salt in so many different types of food. So don't aim for your 5 grams of salt. Aim for no salt, because you are likely still consuming your 5 grams of salt.
I blame it on the slub chips, y'all. Like, there's nothing like bland slub chips. You need to have a lot of salt on that. In terms of training your taste buds to become more normal, how can one do that, especially if you love lots and lots of salt? I mean, this is where we're standing. How does one get yourself from here to here?
Okay, so, you know, it only takes around 11 days to break any habit. So what I would recommend is take the salt shaker off the table, take away the temptation and replace it with some fresh herbs that actually, in many cases, have their own health benefits linked to them. Chopped garlic or chili, for example, or some nice fresh lemon juice, chopped up basil and oregano. All of those things are wonderful flavors. It actually ends up being so much more fulfilling than just adding salt to your food. And by doing that, you start to train your taste buds not to look for that sharp flavor, but to enjoy the, you know, the subtle nuances of different flavors in food.
There we go. She said it takes 11 days to break a habit. Thank you so much, Nicole. Well, Nicole's not going anywhere because stay with us. We're going to be testing to see if we are super tasters and show us how we can test or how you can test yourself at home as well. So don't move a muscle. We'll be breaking that salt habit very soon.
Pharma Dynamics. Effective, affordable healthcare.